of today, it has officially been 5 years since I started this journey. Wow. Truthfully, I never expected this channel to get anywhere. In fact, if you go way back to the very beginning of my channel, you'll find a 30 subscriber special. That was my goal, just 30 people. That number seems so small now. Now, I have nearly 1,000 subscribers. Not to mention over 300 videos and a character roster so expansive that even I have a hard time keeping track. So, as we advance to a new chapter of my life, and therefore my channel, I wanted to take the time to talk about our history and how far we've come. I know I said this was gonna be a Q&A, but... you guys kinda suck at the whole fan involvement thing. Anyway, let's start at the beginning. Now, where exactly the beginning is kind of confusing. I have no doubt that I've been creative since I developed conscious thought. In fact, I developed my very first persona at just 5 years old. Storytelling always came naturally to me, though for a long time I didn't have an easy way of making my ideas reality. I started writing little comic strips around 10 years old, but on paper I was never that great an artist. Also, my handwriting completely sucks. Around that time, though, I made my first completely original character. I called her Samantha Science. She was a little girl like me who was an aspiring scientist. Nowadays, I couldn't tell you where the idea for her even started. It's been so long since I even thought about her. She's important to this story, though, because having one character laid the foundation for a world, and a world lays a foundation for more characters. Pretty soon, I had my very first true character roster, including myself, Samantha, the Mystery Potion, and the Word Ninja. Other real-life people made appearances in my comics occasionally, but for the most part it was just us. I continued drawing and making rudimentary comics for quite a few years, developing short storylines and trying my best to improve my art. Until one day, when I was having a sleepover with a friend of mine, they told me about this new app they found called Gachaverse. Yeah, when I started, Gacha Life didn't even exist yet. How's that for nostalgia? They showed it to me on their tablet and explained that you could make characters and move them around the screen to make stories. They also showed me some things other people had already done with it. I was hooked right away and immediately downloaded it, creating the original trio in mere minutes. The very next day, I started writing my first long-term story, which I called Not All I Seem. At the time, the story had no real objective and just continued endlessly. In fact, I never did officially end it. One day I just kinda stopped. All the main characters you see on my channel today were originally created and developed in those thousands upon thousands of screenshots. Nobody knew about this story or these characters except my sister and I, and none of what was created was ever turned into a proper video. Everything was just screenshots. You'd have to scroll through them manually. In fact, my first 2 videos are in the exact same style. But regardless of how cringy my beginnings may have been, there's no doubt they led to something amazing, and even saved my life. I'm going to try and keep this segment relevant to just my channel history rather than the mess of the whole story, but even now, after all this help and time, sometimes thoughts still spill when I talk about it. And I've never been shy about the fact that I started my channel at the worst time in my life. Kinda weird to hit rock bottom at 11 years old. If you'd rather skip this segment, please feel free to do so, and go to the timestamp shown below. Important things will be summarized on the next page. Alright, here goes. I started officially writing my story at the beginning of 7th grade. It started as a way to cope with the sudden loneliness and vulnerability. I had just graduated from my previous school, which meant leaving behind most of my friends as I'm a year older. There were only 2 exceptions. One wasn't in my class, and the other suddenly betrayed me and moved away almost immediately. The other classmates I moved up with were those who tormented me. Rotten luck. So I started a story where I would have friends that would never leave me, and where I could have some power over the people who didn't like me. I even wrote my childhood crush as my boyfriend and had him admire and protect me. Sounds a little stupid saying it now, but nobody should be ashamed for a coping strategy as long as it doesn't hurt people. I think if my problems had ended there, I would have been alright. But of course, they didn't. In fact, that was just the beginning. Over time, more and more people started bullying me, and even the few who didn't started staying further and further away from me, probably from fear of being treated the same. I was also unknowingly being emotionally manipulated and abused by a childhood friend, and my family started having a lot of problems which I was usually the victim of. Everything had suddenly come crashing down around me, and I started losing pieces of myself. To save what was left and try to cope with the loneliness, I began creating more characters. More friends who would never leave or hurt me. I also decided to use those characters as something like a Horcrux, storing the broken pieces of my soul and keeping them safe. People who know me well may still actually be able to see who got what pieces. Eventually, things started to let up at school. I guess they found a new plaything or just got bored of my lacking reactions. After a while, parts of you stop caring and eating alone just becomes routine. Better with headphones. Even though most people had gone from bullying me to just ignoring me, by the time it happened, the damage was done. I had buried myself so deep, and by that point wasn't much more than a shell with my face. It wasn't because I didn't like myself, it was because other people kept trying to destroy me. That's not my fault. Anyway, one of my good qualities, though, is that I have a very strong will, and that quality, the inability to keep who I was contained and the drive to continue, eventually gave birth to this channel. On March 30th, 2019, I posted my first video, and at that point, I started my way out of hell. I'm sorry about how dark we had to get there, but it's really just not possible to tell the story without acknowledging the terrible place I was in when it started. If you skip through, here's a quick summary. My life became hell for a while because apparently being yourself is illegal in middle school. I used the world I developed as a saving grace and an escape, and finally posted my first video on March 30th, 2019, which made escape feel possible for the first time in about 7 months. Oh right, I didn't mention that. Yeah, all that bullshit was condensed into about 7 months' time. Weird, huh? Anyway, continuing on from that, my memory is pretty blurry for a while, so we'll skip ahead a bit. From there, the next notable thing in this timeline would be the creation of my persona, Ray. She first appeared in this video, at the time known as just RG. Initially, I only intended to have her speak to you guys, the viewers, but she slowly ended up becoming the face of this channel, representing my true self in all my glory, rather than just Holly, who was an idealized version of me. That was actually the first time since the beginning of 7th grade I started showing my true self again. It's amazing how much has changed since then. At the time, it was summer, so I'd been away from school for a while and started to regain some mental clarity. This allowed me to start improving a lot on my story writing, and I published my series New Girl on August 30th of the same year. It was pretty good for a first try, if I say so myself. Unfortunately, the series never got nearly as many views as I'd hoped, but having a coherent story to focus on and something solid to work towards helped me through the next school year. My friends had also graduated, and I had different classmates, so even though I still had it rough, I wasn't alone anymore. Because the quality of my life started to improve, so did the quality of my content. I started putting more effort in, and was even getting excited again. For a bit, everything was normal. And then the pandemic hit. So, once again, I was forced to put my life on hold because of things I couldn't control. Really, I think just about everyone my age was straight up robbed by this dumb germ. Having said that, it still got me out of that terrible school, so it's really not all bad. And I got more time to work on my videos. Although, because I was isolated, I started to become depressed again and the quality of my videos dropped off majorly. Most of my videos became a lot simpler, a lot shorter, and tended to abandon one aspect for another. Skill for speed, story for editing, quality for quantity. And it stayed that way for a really long time. Not to say I stopped posting good content, but I definitely posted less. Especially after seeing that content I work hard on gets less views than content that's short with basic humor. That in particular is really frustrating even now. I'm not sure exactly how long it stayed like that, but it must have been a long time because it wasn't until just before my 2-year anniversary I decided to go back and only post things that I was genuinely proud of. And from there, my channel reached the style it still holds to this day. And here we arrive to the current end of the timeline. I know it seems like we skipped pretty far ahead, but since I've been posting monthly rather than weekly since then, there haven't really been any big changes in a while. My channel is just as I like it now. Of course, some things have definitely still changed over time. Ray became a reflection of my true self rather than just what I can show outside, my videos have improved in quality, and of course the support from you guys as my channel has grown. The final stop on this timeline would be my misheard lyrics video, which caused me to go from 300 to nearly 800 subs in less than a month. No joke! From how I came to be to where I go next, I hope you all will support me all the way. Thank you very much for watching this very special video. Peace out, my rock stars. I'll see you next time.